Welcome, everybody. Great to see you. Great to see different people every time, and some of the same, even nicer. Or just as nice. So please feel welcome. The Psychedelic Salon in Basel has been going on for close to 2 years now. In April, it will be 2 years. We've had all kinds of different speakers, and maybe you don't know this, but I started this Psychedelic Salon in my living room back home during the pandemic because friends asked if I could organize something. And that's how it all started. And then there were more and more people. And of course, my living room was not quite as big as this year. So I moved to Cabaret Voltaire in Zurich. And here we're very happy to have this lounge. And in the summer, we can be outside. So it's a great place. I met Kasia at home when she came to one of my salons at home. And that's how we got to know each other. I am very pleased to have her as our guest tonight because the body in psychedelics, in some ways, it's always a little bit of a neglected subject. It's not that people don't feel themselves, but they don't think about it too much. So here we are, and Kasia will tell us exactly what she does. Very, very welcome. Please, you want to sit while talking?
I think I'm going to sit, yeah, just that you can see also everything. So thank you very much, Susanna, and yeah, thank you for inviting me here. So I'm really, really pleased to talk about this subject today because it feels really like a lifelong research project where I'm the subject. So it's a very personal journey for me as well. And the talk will have sort of two parts. In the first part, I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of the ancient times and a bit of science. And in the second part, I will also mention some of my experiences. And in the second part, I'm going to talk more about my work. And I will show you some examples also of the videos, not from my own work, from work of other people, so that you can see really how it looks like, because it's a lot about experience. It's difficult to explain everything in words when it comes to the body. And my talk will be a kind of a mix of a storytelling, a bit of science, as I said, my own experience. And I really encourage you to not just listen to the meaning of my words, but really kind of tune into your own body and see, you know, if whatever I'm talking about, it resonates with you, if it feels like a truth to you from the feeling of the body or not. And I want to start with this sentence. So since many years, I'm trying to kind of come out with one sentence that tells what is it that I'm actually doing with my clients in my work. And I think this is by far the closest that I have came to actually for the purpose of that presentation. And this is that I guide people to restore the natural connection with themselves. And if you look at the background video with those beautiful jellyfish that have been done with my friend Gaia, that I will mention later as well, you see that these creatures, they have a kind of a rhythm to their life. There is this cycles of pulsation and expansion and contraction together with the ocean, and that's very cute. If you see in a moment when they come together, two of them, they start to pulsate in the same rhythm, just like when two people meet and they start to kind of resonate with each other. And I believe that a lot what we are trying to do when we are thinking about coming back to ourselves and to the connection with the usage of psychedelics or altered states of consciousness is that we are trying to go back to that natural pulse of life, of this natural rhythm that is unique for every single person, but it's also a part of one whole pulsation of, you can say, this planet and the whole universe. And the body is really, as it is the closest to the nature, is our guide really in this process of tuning into that life force, pulsation, rhythm, however, you call it. So it seems to be kind of clear what is nature, but I thought it's still very important to mention. So according to the dictionary, nature is a phenomena of the physical world, including life. So that is animals and plants and minerals and of course us, as opposed to the creation of the human. So anything that human creates is not nature in theory. The other thing about what is nature is that nature is a essence of things. So if you think about my own nature, nature is what makes me a unique. My nature is what makes me a unique human individual. And of course, our body again is a physical part of us. And again, I think every single part of us, of one of us can say, okay, this is really a part of nature. This has not been created by planning by the human. Okay, this is how it's going to work. I mean, parents sometimes plan, okay, we're going to have a baby, but what sort of comes out is a creation of the nature. We can predict some of the features, but it is still something that comes out from that mystery. It's a mystery, basically. How is it that we become who we become? And nature, of course, goes through the cycles. And there are thousands of cycles that the nature goes through, that plants and animals and us, we go through. But I think most of it can really go down at the basic level to those 4 phases: born, grow, produce or reproduce, and die. And this is being replicated and repeated throughout our life in actually anything we do, whether it's a creation of the nature or if it's our own creation. And those cycles are something that is just there. We cannot escape it. It's kind of a bigger than us, right? After spring comes winter, and so on. And within our body, of course, our body is going also through the cycles. People who are menstruating know very well about that. Over a month, we have those 4 different phases, just like here, and they are repeated in our life over and over again. So body has been very largely abandoned and objectified, actually, and exiled from collective consciousness. And as Susie said, also in psychedelic science. When I typed into the PubMed, which is the biggest database of scientific papers, psychedelics and bodywork, there was one paper that was actually not about bodywork even, and psychedelics. So you can imagine there is a big gap there, and that should be filled. And the question is, of course, why it happened. Why do we not appreciate the body? That is an absolute miracle. What we are carrying has been created over billions and billions of years of evolution, and it has an incredible wisdom inside of us. We have moved from kind of being closer to the earth, to our mind, so we are not anymore tuned so closely to our body. So we don't have also that much access to that wisdom of our body as we could have. And this picture, this art, which I really love, it's incredible. It's called Venus Envy, and I'm just going to read from the author what she writes about it. This painting, Venus Envy, refers to the beauty of the female body and the miracle of maternity, and invite us to reflect on the exclusion of female consciousness from the collective consciousness and the exclusion of the body as a part of it. And I want to just point out that this objectification of the body and women are connected. And also, I I want to very clearly point out when I talk about feminine consciousness, I don't mean just women. It's not a women consciousness. It's a particular state of being that is more connected to slowness, to the earth, to not doing by being, and so on. And I really also believe that part of that psychedelic renaissance is actually to bring back that feminine consciousness into our consciousness, because we need it. I mean, we are not doing very well at the moment. But we really need to go back again to our body also, and to the earth. Yeah, so here I'm really excited because I want to share with you an experience of myself and how I met nature, my own nature. In the background, you will see you see a documentary called VR Psyched. It's a VR movie about psychedelic therapy that a student from CHDK had made, and I was one of the people who was interviewed for that movie. At the moment, he's not showing it anywhere, but maybe Susie, it would be a nice person to bring to this conference that you're planning. It's really cool with the VR set and for the people to see.
I don't know, but I do know Sasha Schwartz.
You know Sasha Schwartz, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna just read from my journal what I have written about that experience. And I try to find my, okay, I'm gonna read it from here. I gathered with my dear friend Gaia to sit in a magic mushroom ceremony. After speaking our intentions and going through a safety protocol, Gaia and I took about 2 grams of the sacrament. We lied down, and after a short 15 minutes, I noticed the familiar sensation in my brain, as if the gate had been opened, and I heard the voice from the mushroom. You are in, but you are going to take another gram. At that stage, my body was already very fragile. I had to literally crawl to the bathroom with the help of my friend, who seemed to be functional despite taking the same dose. After getting back to the room, she gave me another gram. And long story short, I went through the death process, the ego dissolution, and then rebirth. But this is not really what that story is about. After about 2 hours, which felt like an eternity, when I could finally move, I noticed that my body lived independently. Everything was moving: my head, my torso, my hands, and my fingers. I felt separate cells moving. I had experienced a sensation of being fully intact and simultaneously completely translucent and wholly connected to everything. I was sensing this magical force throughout my body, and I was pulsating and undulating with the table, the nuts in the bowl, the air, the tree outside, and I have never felt so profoundly alive, so much here, so unique and needed, and so free. So that was my experience of that life force, a kind of times 1,000 with the help of the magic mushrooms. It was really literally the whole body was waving and moving, and so here we come to the question: have you ever wondered what your body is doing while your mind is in a psychedelic state? And yeah, there's why we actually ask this question: what happened there somewhere that suddenly the heart or the body has been separated from the mind, from the brain, which I call the great split. Although we know that if we take the mind out of the body or the body out of the mind, we are not existing anymore. So of course they are absolutely connected and together. It's a body-mind. One doesn't exist without the other. So I'm going to make here a bold statement that our body is also in the altered states of consciousness, and I would call it somadelic. And we absolutely gain access to body functions that are not available in our waking life. And we know that from looking at the different neurotransmitters and et cetera, And again, this experience that I had, which, by the way, doesn't have to be necessarily stimulated by the entheogens. It can be your substances. You can go to that place with other means, which I'm going to talk in a moment about. But basically, something happened to our body as well. Our body is in an altered state of consciousness, given that we believe that the body has consciousness as well, which I believe it does. So here I would like to tell you a little bit about how the ancients have worked with the body to go into the altered state of consciousness, which I called an ancient technology of ecstasy. If you are interested in that, I refer you to this book, Psychedelic Mysteries of the Feminine, because women have been the ones that have mastered going into altered states of consciousness using their body. Not only women, but since the women are naturally going through those cycles, menstrual cycles, and I'm sure many of you have experienced that in the menstruation, we are kind of in that semi-psychedelic state. We have access to consciousness that we don't have in the other parts of our monthly cycle. And I would like to start actually with myth of Inana, which is from Mesopotamia, from the part of Mesopotamia called Sumer. It's about 4,000 before Common Era. Because this is actually the first myth that talks about this concept of going to the underworld, like in a psychedelic journey, going through the gate, and then being reborn and going through a transformation. So Inanna was a goddess of many things. She was the most important for Mesopotamia, for Sumer, of love, of sex, sexuality, eros, and war, love and war. That's how goddesses were before. There was something about this two polarities, the love, which is building, and the war that is destructing, that seem to be making sense together. And so in this myth, she's going down into the underworld, which she doesn't rule. That's the only place that she does not rule, to meet her sister called Erishkagal, and she goes through 7 gates. And after the 7 gates, with each gate, she's taken off one of her signs of power, so her jewelry and so on. And in the end, she comes to the last one, to the 7th gate, and then I will read you. When she came to the 7th gate, from her body, the royal robe was removed. So she became naked. Inanna asked, "What is this?" She was told, "Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They might not be questioned." So this tells us that there's something about this underworld, this going into the hells, this going naked, basically, where we sort of have to give up our control as well. And this is the whole kind of trick, how to go there underworld, how to go into the psychedelic journey, give up the control, find this magic, and then come back and get rebirth into new us, new person. And this is just a joke. On that myth, there's basically the hero's journey in every single movie and in many different myths later on is based on. And again, this is from Game of Thrones. If anyone of you have watched it, that's Daenerys Targaryen, and she was very similar. She was a woman who loved, but she also was a woman with the dragons and fire. She was also destroying. And these are my favorite. Pythias, the Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece that has been operating between 1700 before Common Era to about 400 of the Common Era, also during the time of the Eleusinian Mysteries, where we know that psychedelic substances have been used. And you see the woman sitting there. This is a Pythia. And a man who came to her, probably someone very important, to ask for an advice. So all the rulers, the important people were coming to the Temple of Delphi to ask for an advice from those wise women. So originally it is believed that the Temple of Delphi was actually a place where the Gaia was worshipped, so the Mother Earth or the great goddess. And then it has been, and at that time it has been protected by a serpent called Python. Therefore they're called Pythias, and you can see this serpent there. And then Apollo came, the god Apollo came, killed the serpent, and then took over the temple. There's some ideas that those women have been inhaling mind-altering gases from the underground, fumes, exactly. So that might be the case, that it helped them to go into altered state. I also believe that they have basically mastered over centuries working with their own body to kind of channel this wisdom from Gaia. And yeah, they were the ones that have basically carried that tradition of using the body as a mean for the altered states of consciousness.
Did they speak in riddles, sort of, no? They spoke in riddles?
Yeah. So it was not kind of a one-to-one advice, but rather more poetic. Yes, so more poetic, more symbolic language, absolutely. Just checking. So another things that were used also for to come into altered states of consciousness was dance, using darkness. That was the domain of women also, as opposed to light. So dancing in the dark, for example, and sexuality. That was what helped them also to come into the altered state of consciousness. And so let's look a little bit on the science of the body and consciousness. I start with that model from Rosaline Watson. Perhaps some of you might know her. She is a researcher that did one of the first clinical studies in the UK on psilocybin. And she developed the integration model, psychedelic integration model called ACER, Accept, Connect, Embody, Restore. I really suggest to have a look on that integration model. It's really beautiful, also very much connected to the cycles of the nature, and she really loves nature, very close to the nature. And you see there's those two worlds also. There is a underworld. Here she's taking ocean, and there's the light and the darkness, so to speak. And in order to get back into the life with some pearl of wisdom that you see there, you go inside in your trip, in your psychedelic trip. You have to let go, allow yourself to sense your body, to sense yourself, then feel whatever comes up. And I will elaborate on that a little bit later when I will show my own work. Then you will encounter probably some things and like on the bottom of the ocean that are maybe not so nice to see, but you will find this, hopefully this pearl of wisdom. And then you go into the light, into your conscious awareness to integrate that, make sense of it, and then change your life, hopefully, based on that. And just as these two parts of the upper world and the lower world, there's also something like that's basically what our consciousness is. And this man, Gerald Edelman, who was a Nobel Prize winner in immunology, and he was very interested in consciousness. He talked about these two types of consciousness. The secondary consciousness is what you know as me. So ordinary adult consciousness made of parts of personality that create our ego. It's very much connected to the central nervous system and our cortex. And it's all about thinking, making sense, language, sense of time, goals and abstractions, and self-reflecting. We can reflect about things and you identify it as you. On the other side, the primary consciousness is more of a child or an animal consciousness, which is evolutionary much older. And it's connected to cells, to senses and biological processes, connected more to the deep brain, so our brain stem and autonomic nervous system, so the one that we don't have conscious control over, or at least that's what we believe. And here it is about sensation, emotions, perceptions, mental images. There is no sense of time and there's no planning. And it has this fantastic self-correcting mechanisms. We don't have to think how to repair ourselves. Our body knows how to do it. We don't have to tell our body to go to sleep. It goes to sleep by itself. And here, there's no executive ego, so it's just being in the moment, as opposed to being in the past or in the future. And why is this important? The current theory, probably one of the most most common that I hear, is that in the psychedelic state, we are moving basically from that secondary consciousness into more primary consciousness. So there's something called default mode network that normally is operating our waking life. This has kind of the volume of that goes down so that we have more access to that primary consciousness that is more flexible, it's more open, it's also more chaotic, but it helps us to discover new things about ourselves and to learn. Yeah. So for that primary consciousness, what is very, very important to understand is a little bit about autonomic nervous system. I'm not going to go through that a lot. Again, this model from Jan Winhall, the felt sense polyvagal model, is very simple. You can also check it out in more details. So she talks about those three states that our autonomic nervous system is, which is the times when we're activated, or also flooding when we're anxious. That's a fight and flight, the red ball. Opposite to that is a fold collapse, which is dissociation and numbing. And this dissociation happens a lot in trauma. So trauma is not what happened to people, but what happens inside the body. When we are exposed to either traumatic childhood or acute trauma, a rape, a disaster, and the event has overwhelmed us, what happens is that the energy of that event kind of freezes inside of our body. So our way to deal with that is that we dissociate. We go outside of our body, and this is a dissociation state. And on the bottom, this yellow flower piece that she calls flock, which is a social engagement system. That's what is about health restoration, relationship, and so on. And none of that states is per se good or bad. We all need all of them. If we let everything function without our mind, so to speak, we would be basically healthy because our body, our autonomic nervous system knows how to balance itself. So how to go from activation, for example, back to rest. But there's something about us that wants to control things. And how we can help ourselves is to learn the felt sense. And felt sense is how we feel ourselves inside. So there's senses that we see that are connected towards the outside. The felt sense is towards the inside. So that would be, let's say I'm sitting now, I feel tension in my belly, I feel very warm in my chest, I feel tingling in my fingers. That's felt sense. And each of the states has a different felt sense. And the more we learn how to feel ourselves, the more connected we are to now, to our body. And the more we help also the self-correcting mechanisms. It seems to be easy, and it's not. So what I see with people is that I believe everyone can feel themselves, but we don't have vocabulary. We don't know how to explain what is happening inside of us. And that's what I'm working a lot with my clients. It's such a simple thing, like what is present, what is alive in you right now. The first answer very often from my clients is, it's okay. Nothing's going on. It's like, really? Great. So now we are coming to a first video that I want to show you from that organization called Psychedelic Somatic Institute. And I love these guys because they work with psychedelics and body in a really excellent way. The man who founded this institute, Sach Razavi, he was one of the clinical investigation at MAPS, at the organization that works with MDMA and PTSD. And you will see a participant that has inhaled cannabis. So they work mainly with ketamine and cannabis. And the reason is that it's legal. Both of those substances are legal in Colorado, where they are in a lot of different states. And secondly, they say that what is very important for a lot of people that are exposed to trauma is that before they go in that kind of transcendental places with mushrooms or with LSD, they benefit a lot first with working really on a very, very basic body level without going. And then after a couple of sessions, when the nervous system is balanced, then they suggest, go for higher dose of mushrooms or psilocybin or LSD. And then the next would be going for a ceremony, for example, in the group. And I'm talking about therapeutic kind of transition, because they work with people with trauma mostly. And I'm going to play it now. Hopefully you will go.
Sorry, the group or single work?
This is single work. Yeah, this is 1-to-1. And pay attention to the facilitator. This is actually Sasha Razavi, how loving he is. Because they also work a lot with relationality in that setting.
It's like a cold, slow motion wave. And it goes all the way down into my digestive system, freezing everything. And the slow motion wave, now it's going to the right. Like a cold, icy wave. Deep ocean.
Freezing things.
Yeah. And it's just flowing over to the right now, freezing everything in its path.
Does that mean it freezes emotions as well? Or just body?
Everything. I feel like Spock.
Okay.
I feel cold.
Okay.
Literally cold.
Yeah.
So the first stage was dissociation. And now she's going into flight and fight.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Watch the fist. Let it do its thing. Let it do its thing.
My heart's beating really fast.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Stay with it. Stay with it. Scary? Yeah, yeah. Stay right there. If you need my hand, I'm right here. If you need contact, I'm right here. But stay with it.
It's like it's fury that's protecting me. It's just I'm so mad.
Let it do it all by itself. Let it do it all by itself.
It's like the fear is underneath the fury. It's really cold.
Yes. Let it all surprise you. Yeah, confusing, fury, and fear all at the same time.
Organically moves to the relaxed state.
Coming back to life. It's unflinching around my eyes and my chest, on my hands, my diaphragm, my heartbeat. Oh yeah, God. Oh God. Yeah, this is that expanding out of having been encased feeling. Like I'm able to fully expand. I'm not contained.
So you see, he's encouraging her to just do it all by itself. There's no guidance like take the breath, or they really go through the whole natural cycle. And also there's no really, it's only sensations. So what she was talking about is the felt sense, how she felt her emotions. But there's not so much work with the meaning or biographical pieces. That would be something for later, probably for the later sessions. So we are coming into the second part of the talk, which is how I work. And this is always going to be a work in progress. And I have really taken from so many teachers, my own experience from, it's kind of like growing organically. I thought it's important to say, we often say process. So when I work with my clients, I often get the questions, can you help me? And I say, I don't know. I never say to anyone, I can help you, because that's not what it is about. So the process is really about the flow of the experience in oneself and the environment and the change that we observe. And I feel if we can give ourselves in that way into the work without expectation of where we should get into. So I want to get rid of my anxiety, or I want to get rid of my depression. And of course we want to, but what is interesting is that if we allow ourselves to get open, like that primary consciousness, that child mind, we get really surprised. And I mean, I don't have to tell people who have experienced psychedelic states how important it is just to let yourself to be gifted also things within that process. And I also refer you to a man who actually studied at ETH in Switzerland, who is a founder of the process work, Arnold Mindell. He did the fantastic work on the process work. And this you know already, so of course I base my process with my clients on the cycles of nature, and I call it allow, amplify, accept, absolve, and accept. That's the 4 parts, and I'm gonna go through these 4 parts very briefly, and in the end show you another video also, so that you can see how it works. So the first one is allow. What I said, permitting something unexpected to happen. And this is very, very, very important in that work with psychedelics and with any other type of process work. Being curious, kind of going into that innocent state of like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. And in order to go into that space of curiosity, we need to feel safety. That's the basics of the basics. And I really spend a lot of, well, I don't spend a lot of energy, but I put really a very strong attention and effort into building a relationship with my clients that feels really safe for them. That they feel they are not pushed, they are not directed anywhere, but it's kind of unfolding and I'm kind of just sitting next to them and I'm like, yeah, cool, what's next? And I just put some, I'm not going to talk about this a lot because you have heard that, I'm sure, millions of times on different talks. So there's just like keywords, trust, resonance. So I use my own body with work with my clients to feel them within myself. Innocence and curiosity, presence, and on the other side, music, beauty, fragrances. That is not just to make a place to be beautiful. It actually helps us to come back to our body. It's not told a lot about that, but it's really a music and flowers and maybe some, I don't know, essential oils or something. It helps us to connect to our body. It's the easiest thing. Amplify, that's increasing the size or effect of the body sensations and expressions. So at some point when we take a substance or we do a breath work, even if we don't do anything, something will start to happen. So if I see my client, for example, starting to move his head, I'll just say, okay, like notice your head moving backwards and just repeat it a couple of times and make it bigger. And then the next sensation comes. So this is amplification, repeating things, noticing things, and then repeating things and making it bigger. And then the next thing comes and it's like basically unfolding, like a spiral, it unfolds. And how to get there? I start always with senses towards the outside. We have this amazing 5 senses plus other ones, the position of our body. And if people have problems to get into themselves, they have not worked too much with the felt sense yet, I would say, okay, just notice the sounds in the room, notice the colors, and then slowly, it's like outside in, it goes slowly towards the inside. And body work, what I find important here to say is not just a physical manipulation of the tissues. It's not just what we know as a massage or touch. We might not touch anyone or ourselves at all, and it's still going to be a body work. So it's anything that is it's a kind of physical, emotional check-in. So also felt sense is a body work, or any embodied work indicated by a person's expression in the moment. Sound, movement, that's also body work. Absolve, releasing from sin, punishment, and responsibility. And this is the place where we go closer to our emotions and we start to really tune into that nature, that natural, that essence of us. And we are kind of welcomed to basically express whatever is there. just as it is, without shame and without guilt. So that we are innocent, we are not, it's not sinful that we feel what we feel. It's not bad that I feel like crap. And more so, you don't have to change anything about it. It's okay, it's part of you. It's gonna be always part of you. And in any stage, but in particular in that stage, I want to point out on touch. So I work a lot with touch with my clients. Before I touch anyone, I have to feel that they feel safe. There's always a consent. I always ask people. And I work with 2 different types of touch, a kind of a compassionate touch. So just putting my hand on someone's arm. And I work also with body work, like a manipulative body work. Yeah. And why is that so important? And I cannot like stress more. Touch is the mother of our senses, the first sense that we develop in us. So I put a couple of bullet points from the prenatal development, so the development of the baby. So the heart starts to beat at 16 days, at 5 weeks. So 5 weeks, it's 35 days? No, 35 days. Skin is formed. So we have the skin, 3-layered skin. At 6 weeks, the embryo feels the first touch to the mouth. So they basically are like this, and they feel that touch. At 17 weeks, a sense of touch is fully developed. At 32, every part of the fetus can feel a single hair brushing across the body. This is how sensitive it is. And in the uterus, we are being touched on all surfaces all the time. So there is no, there is no transformation of the childhood trauma, or I actually think any trauma, if there's no touch. And I know that there's a touch that can be harmful, and that's part of the trauma as well. But I don't think that not using touch is a response to that. I mean, in Europe, I feel that we still have a little bit healthier connection with touch comparing, for example, to US. In US, I see there's always a bit more, and we have to think about that, like what is it about touch that, what is it in our collective consciousness that touch suddenly became something, and it's so essential. Yeah, and in the end, accept is just receiving the uniqueness of the human experience, whatever it is. I don't work with people to fix them. I work with people to really feel themselves and feel what is authentic about them. And what is authentic about us is that in this human experience, pain is a part of life, and we're never going to get rid of pain. And it's not a bad thing. Pain is really something, a great teacher. And we almost are at the end of my presentation. So now I'm going to show you a video from biodynamic breathwork for trauma release training. And this is a method that I use a lot, especially for the preparation of the people for the psychedelic experiences. Biodynamic breathwork is a combination of breathwork, a very gentle one, with the somatic work, with the working with the tissues, working with the movement. The founder of biodynamic breathwork, or co-founder, this is another co-founder, they are both quite involved with psychedelics as well. So they have taken quite a lot from that world. And the video here kind of shows going through the different stages.
Juliana with the demo. How are you doing, Juliana, today?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I do have lower back pain. That is, I'm noticing it every day. So this is something that I would like to work on.
Where exactly?
You see, he's already getting in touch with her before anything starts, before she's in the altered states of consciousness.
It's calm. It's calm here. Somehow neutral.
Calm and neutral.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah. It was an uncomfortable feeling.
So she was breathing, and now she's in that stage of sensing and feeling herself.
Yeah. Like.
And you see very classical reaction of the nervous system, which is shaking. That's very natural, neurogenic tremor.
Look at me for a moment. And do some body work on your sacrum, okay? Full breath. Why are you laughing? What happened?
Like it.
You just like it. Now, what would be the way you would like this?
Like calming down.
And here he's already starting a bit of an integration because she's still in her body, so she can really anchor that felt sense of feeling good, feeling herself.
This is the right place to integrate for the end of the session. Okay. I'm sorry to ask you to slow down.
So that's more or less how an ideal psychedelic session would look like. And to end, I would like to share kind of my my own how can I say, wisdom from, or purse of wisdom from my visit to the underworld. So I have been suffering from reoccurring depression since I was a teenager up to this time. It's kind of like my part of my my journey. So what I have learned is that we can't conquer life, never. Living in the body is connected to impermanence and the constant change. Everything will die at some point, right? Including our relationships. There are cycles of creation and dissolution. The house carries a potent regenerative power. The wound gives us humbleness and reverence towards life. It's very important that for human beings, reverence towards life. The wound shows us the preciousness of life and our relationships, and most importantly, living in the body is an ecstatic experience by itself. And this man, a Sufi teacher, said that God breaks the heart and again and again and again until it stays open. And with that, I finish my presentation. Thank you.